Perfect. You can focus at the center of the camera.
It looks like I don't.
Thank you so much. We have a helper today, and so happy everybody has joined in for our 6th class in the Ashtavakra Gita. So let us begin with a chant as we always do. Om Sato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityarma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to mortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Well, namaskar, namaste to all. Thank you for joining us online here. We also are live as well at the Las Vegas Center for the Ramakrishna Vivekananda order. And we're so happy to be here, even though it's a little bit warm out. It's going to be cooler and cooler now, so we're over the peak season of heat, so hopefully we'll start to cool off a little bit. So we're really so blessed to be here. This is our 6th in our series of classes on the Ashtavakra Gita. And as we said before, there's many study classes on scripture. There's many study classes in Sanskrit and the different meanings of the words and parsing the meanings of the words and how it applies. But what I really thought this was going to be more of is just an experiential session of the Ashtavakra Gita, of the states of consciousness that they're described so beautifully in that beautiful scripture. And as you may know by now, since this is the 6th in the series, we use Sir Thomas Byram's translation, which is recommended by Swami Sarvapriyanandaji, who we just saw him. He had a class in Hollywood. I was blessed to see 2 days of that class. Always amazing to see Maharaj and enlightening to be near him and Swami Sarvadevanandaji and all the wonderful monks of the order in the Hollywood Temple. And I thank them all for supporting us here in Las Vegas as they do so much. So we thought this is really going to be focusing on states of awareness and states of consciousness, and giving us some practical experience with this in our daily lives and benefits from it. And I find I'm a Capricorn, so they say we're practical people when we try to use things so efficiently. So that's kind of maybe where this comes from. So let us first, as we always do, start with a chant and try to, first of all, release the mind from all of the entanglements in the world, all of the things we're doing, all of the worthwhile and not worthwhile uses of our mind, right? And all the emotional upheavals that we have in our world and all these things going on nowadays. And so we'll do that by chanting Hymn to Brahma. And this is such a perfect hymn for our class, especially because it describes vividly this state of awareness. And there's 2 ways. This is a couple of ways you can really use this hymn. It's used as a worship of the Guru, which it's a beautiful worship of Brahman, the underlying awareness of all, as it talks about in here. And then it describes that state of consciousness to the Guru, which is a beautiful thing to do. And I actually was singing this in India at some of the temples, and it was really a beautiful experience. But the other way is to turn things within, and this is what we're going to be talking about in this class more and more now, is to take the same explanation and descriptions and the same essence and turn them within so that we are the ones that reflect this state of awareness. This state of awareness is our state of awareness. Our reality is this. And we are that. There's no difference. And eventually that's something that actually becomes true. And Swamiji and all the great ones talk about constantly affirming this, constantly seeing the world this way, constantly seeing ourselves that way, and reminding ourselves. And eventually that becomes hope, that takes hope in our own awareness. So let me give you we'll do this in Sanskrit, but the translation is simple. It's full of bliss, giving joy transcendent, of higher knowledge, the abode, dual no more, clear as the heavens, known to all as thou art that. He is pure, permanent, unmoving, the everlasting seer of all, far, far beyond qualities and thought. Guru, Lord, I bow to thee. So this is the English translation, and this is Paramahansa Yoganandaji's translation of this, and I think it's a general translation as well. But so we'll do this. We actually also have a new harmonium thanks to the Convocation and Self-Realization Fellowship. So let's see how it works. It sounds beautiful when I was testing it out. So this is the first time we've actually used it in a practical sense. So it should be very, very interesting and wonderful to have this new harmonium here. Ramanandam Paramachishtaram Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Tadana Sadrisham Tatvamasyadilasyam Ekam Nityam Vimalam Mashalam Sarvadin Sashributam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadguru Tam Namami Sadguru Tam Namami, full of bliss, giving joy, transcendent of higher knowledge, the who will know it, clear as the heaven, known to all as thou art, that he is pure, permanent, unmoving, the everlasting seer of all, far, far beyond qualities and form. Lord, I bow to thee. Lord, I bow to thee. Wow. Well, that certainly is a difference. That was so. Let us really dwell on what we're trying to accomplish with this class here today. We're so used to seeing the world through our own eyes and our own mind and projecting everything, and all of our attention is external. So that means that everything we want, everything we hope for, everything we think we need is external to us. So in order to fulfill a need, we are always looking outward, whether that be something physical, something needing for sustaining life, something for love, something to sustain our souls, love, connection, companionship, value, importance, satisfaction, feeling fulfillment. All these things we are used to for incarnations and incarnations, thinking that we need to have these things from something external to us. So externalization is the ego, and what Ramana Maharshi makes it so simple, and it's so amazing in this, and Thakur also makes some declarations. But it's just so simple that the I comes first, this separate person, and then everything follows from there. All of these desires. And then we're in a cat and mouse game with the world, trying to get what we want. Then we're happy if we get it, and we're disappointed and sad if we don't, or angry, frustrated. And in some cases, we create complexes of anger and just phobias and fixations and addictions and all these things, they become really, really hard. It seems like second nature to us. So luckily, it's not to our soul, it's second nature to our personality. But they're not part of us. Nothing is. So, the biggest secret for a spiritual path, and this is what Swami Vivekananda, I'm gonna read some of the stuff by Swamiji, is that magic moment when we start to realize that and this is true for everything we think we want to know also. Everything we try to see as our answers are always external also. So we look for God, we look for an answer to a separate being, a higher learning, an understanding, and we go crazy, like Swamiji used to say. His head was bloody, bowing to everything around, until he realized that wasn't ever going to give him satisfaction and peace. And then we all of a sudden, at some point, start to internalize and start looking into what is there inside of us for the answers, for these qualities, for the solutions to all of the problems. And I suspect, and from what they tell us in the scriptures, is it takes millions and millions of incarnations of just trying it the other way and becoming disappointed until we start to do that and still give up on the hope that somehow the world or what we're trying to achieve is finally going to give us that peace, that utter fulfillment that we're seeking, beyond hope of pain, beyond hope of harm. And, even if you get what you want, what's the next problem? Feeling you're going to lose it, right? Or losing it, then, you have the perfect marriage or the perfect job or the perfect company or perfect business, and all of a sudden, either you die or it goes away. And you're back to square one, and apparently at another lifetime, if you believe in all of that. It seems to make sense to me. So let's listen to what some of the great beings, Swami Vivekananda and some of these, let's read before we dive into the Ashtavakra Gita and see what they have to say about all of this sort of thing. Swami Vivekananda says, we must become free. We are free. The work is to know it. We must give up all slavery, all bondage of whatever kind. We must not only give up our bondage to earth and everything and everybody on earth, but also to all ideas of heaven and happiness. Imagine him pronouncing these things in the late 1800s in America, of all places. And this is part of the complete works of Swami Vivekananda. Imagine that statement to people in that time when, all they're thinking of, and especially Christian fundamentalism that was going on in that time, was that, if you're going to go to heaven or hell. And that's the whole point of life, is trying to earn heaven and be afraid of hell because you're doing bad things and this all the psychological messing that's going on. And he's saying something like this. Imagine the shock that some people would have had just hearing those words. But the truth is, in India, for millennia, these kinds of ideas were currency and to the most profound teachings, and usually kept hidden to those who had renounced the world. Householders who perhaps may not be able to really absorb that. So there was all of the worship of the deities to be able to get what we need, to be able to get what we want. That's what a lot of all the different rites are, to be able to use those subtle beings to bring into our lives what we want, what we need, all these sort of things. Listen to Swami Vivekananda again. God will only vanish when the world vanishes. Then you will become God, the Absolute. And this world will no longer be for you. So long as the dream that you are a body exists, you are bound to see yourself as being born and dying. But as soon as that dream vanishes, so will the dream vanish that you are being born and dying. And so will the other dream that there is a universe vanish. That very thing which we now see as the universe will appear to us as God, the Absolute. And that very God, who has so long been external, will appear to be internal as our own self. Again, what I find, and this is one of the things that we actually kind of designed this class for, is if you study the scriptures, there's a lot of ways of saying this, but the essence of what they're saying is generally exactly the same. just what's the essence of that is what Swamiji just said here. And so that's something that we really try to point out to everyone, that you'll be able to use semantics, mental gymnastics, learning Sanskrit and all these things, but when you're finally breaking yourself down enough, you make that turn from looking externally to a scripture or to a word or semantics or to cosmology or something like that for the answers, and turn it within. And then silence becomes the currency that is most important. Here's Swami Vivekananda again. Practical religion is identifying myself with myself. Stop this wrong identification. How far are you advanced in that? You may have built 2,000 hospitals, built 50,000 roads, and yet what of that? If you have not realized that you are the spirit, you die a dog's death with the same feelings that a dog does. The dog howls and weeps because he knows that he is only matter and he is going to be dissolved. Wow. They said, Sri Ramakrishna described Swami Vivekananda as an unsheathed sword. And he didn't mince words. He didn't suffer fools gladly, as they say. He kind of just said it like it was. And I suppose that was some reason why some people really had an issue with Swamiji. But you've got to love him for just stating the truth that openly, especially in the 1800s, where, the people around him were ready to kind of do him bodily harm because he would say such a thing. He did the same thing in India, by the way. There's a famous quote of his. Somebody asked him, Swamiji, when do you think the highest golden age of India was? At what time? And they expected some great answer from him. He said, I think the highest golden age was when 4 Brahmins could polish off 1 cow. Because it went against all of their taboos, all of their isms, all of their rules, regulations, and mental crustaceans, and it just blew away them all. That's what he said that specifically because, all of these things that people are married to are the problem that becomes that cocoon around you that blinds you from yourself. So amazing. This is Sri Ramana Maharshi, and there's a statue of Ramana Maharshi on our altar because I've been going to Tiruvannamalai and Arunachala quite a bit these last 2 years. So I've been really blessed. The energy there is beyond conception and beyond expression. So this is Sri Ramana. How can I control the mind? This is a really classic question for a lot of us, isn't it? And this is Ramana's answer. There is no mind to control if the self is realized. The self shines forth when the mind vanishes. In the realized man, the mind may be active or inactive. The self alone exists. For the mind, body, and world are not separate from the self, and they cannot remain apart from the self. Can they be other than the self? Then when aware of the self, why should one worry about these shadows? How do they affect the self? And this is Ramana. Again, what I find is Ramana doesn't mince words, and he doesn't really he just keeps on repeating and bringing our attention back within and turning it around. All of his questions are generally about something external. And every single time he turns the questioner back inside himself. Whatever his answer was to address his issues, he always returns to, okay, who is asking this question? Who wants to know these things? Who is behind this? And he said that thing that does not change, that is changeless, and that is the self. So that's the thing that we need to focus on. And the funny thing is, it's the closest thing to us. When we finally start to catch a glimpse about what they're trying to give us a little clue to, it's the closest thing we have to us. It's our own awareness. It's our own self. It's that thing that's looking out and seeing the suffering self that we created, or the joyful self that we created, or the insomniac, the one who can't sleep at night, It's that's aware of all those things all the time. A couple of nights ago, I had an experience where I had an awake experience and a dreaming experience, and then kind of an ecstatic experience, all within a short period of time. So I was awake, I was dreaming, and I was also in this kind of and I realized something really clearly, that it was the same self, the same experiencer in all 3 of these different states. And the states weren't the issue, it was the experiencer that was the issue. And that's so cool. It's so cool when it becomes really clear. Now this one's, we'll finish this up and then we'll start getting ready for our we're doing really well with time. And this is the Ribhu Gita. Now after we're done with the Ashtavakra Gita, by the way, I've got a beautiful translation of the Ribhu Gita, which we'll do. And this is from Tamil and Sanskrit. And it's got, I'll tell you all about this later, but this is a scripture that Ramana Maharshi really appreciated because he came from an experiential type of situation where he wasn't at first a learned scripture pundit. He wasn't studying scripture. He knew Sanskrit, he knew Tamil, he knew all of these things. He was a Brahmin child, of course he was educated, but he never really studied these things. He went right into at age 18 having a direct experience of realization of the self, and he stayed there. And he didn't talk for many years after he had this profound experience. And finally he became verbal again. And when somebody read the Ribhu Gita to him, he was really glowing and he said, that explains my state of consciousness. That is explaining what how I'm, my awareness. And so it's beautiful, beautiful. And the Ashtavakra Gita is a lot like that. We'll talk about this in a minute. So let's read a little something from the Ribhu Gita, verse 19. Stay like one in which you have no fears for hell, no joys for heaven. There are no worlds of God, the Creator, nor of other gods. There is no object to be identified from them, nor another world, nor any universe of any kind. And always be happy without the slightest trace of thought. That's the Ribhu Gita. So it sounds kind of like the Ashtavakra Gita in a lot of ways. It's an echo of internally of this truth, of this state of awareness. It's just describing a state of awareness that is beyond any hint of possibility of pain, any hint of possibility of change, any hint of possibility of time, of causation, of beginning or ending. Such a powerful, 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 powerful scripture. Okay. So we're going to go diving into the Ashtavakra Gita, and something that Swami, I want to repeat something Swami Sarva Priyanandaji said about the different scriptures, and especially the Ashtavakra Gita. He talked about Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. Shravana, hearing truth, or for the first time, reading it, being exposed to truth. Manana is reflection on truth with the mind, manas, mind, the thinking principle. So we have to kind of dive into the Sanskrit to kind of get an idea what it really means. So manana is being able to basically get a mental clarity and a mental understanding of this truth, where the light bulb comes on. It's not realization, but it makes clear sense logically to the mind. And the whole point, this is something that was explained to me years ago, and something that came to me a little bit too, is the whole idea in this crazy drama is for us to finally surrender, finally be secure enough in ourselves that we've tried everything else externally, that we deserve to just totally surrender our own efforts, our own desires, our own needs, and just let what is be, and fall into that whatever it is, fall backward into that abyss. A lot of times, as it's called. Swami Vivekananda had these experiences where he was just going into what am I? He actually had. He told the first time he told Srimad Krishna, "What are you doing? I have my family at home, my mother and my father," because he felt that he was just going into this total void, this total abyss. Sooner or later, we have to be completely able to do that. So having the mind come along and saying, "Okay, this seems like it's going to be all right. It's not stupid. It's not against my, understanding. It's not like taking things on blind belief." So this is kind of where, that's why this period of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana is the path that's shown in the scriptures of being able to bring awareness to the student. So when the mind finally has saying, okay, it's like, when you're young, you're told in Sunday school, well, there's heaven and hell. If you're good, you go to heaven. If you're bad, you go to hell forever, never, never. And you're going, what? Sooner or later, like, I can't believe that. Some of us, That doesn't sound right to me. It doesn't sound like any father or mother that would do that. I couldn't do that to my children. Why would some amazing being do this to their children? And we had that fight with our own self, and then with our pastors and our priests or whoever, right? We couldn't do it. The mind just said, forget that, that's crazy. And then all of a sudden you started hearing things like reincarnation and that there's chances and that there's never anybody who will be lost. It just takes time, whatever time that they want. They just choose to take the long route through all of this if they want to, or they can find that they find what they want to and find that settle into that peace whenever they're ready for it. That made a lot more sense to me. And my mind was okay with it. And then, of course, through all of the studies and all of these things that we get a chance to have, it really formed a clarity of, okay, this seems logical to me. This whole thing seems logical. But at that point, then, we have to be able to surrender the mind, too. We have to just give it up, like, put your baggage on the floor of the train and just surrender it, let the train take you there. And so eventually, even the mind, even the thinking process has to be surrendered. And then after that, Sri Ramana says that that primal I is the first impetus for its individuality. Then there's thought, then there's own, then there's creation. So the primal I becomes, even after the thoughts are done, then that primal I exposes itself and has to be gone beyond. Even that first glimpse of I am separate, I am different, I. Whatever this I is, we can follow it to that I, Ramana says. That's vichara, going into that I. But then after that, even that is surrendered, even that is given up, until the self starts to shine forth, which is the effortless. So this is nididhyasana, going beyond, having experience, having a whole, and it's not an intellectual experience, it's not a physical experience, it's an awareness experience. And so he talks about the Ashtavakra Gita, and I think the Ribhu Gita certainly qualifies too, as a nididhyasana scripture. It's not one that's designed to give you intellectual understanding or vocabulary or acceptance of these ideas. That should be a given at this point. But what this is when you finally surrender and you just are awareness, and these words waft over and emanate from your inner being, they're describing your state of awareness. They're describing reality. And that's what these scriptures are. And so they really need to be respected, and it's not argumentative that works with these scriptures. It's surrender. And it's just being able to experience it. And this is what makes a difference in somebody's personality, their life, their reality. This is where somebody has made a change, a fundamental change towards happiness, towards peace. I know some people say that they've seen their friends do spiritual path, but the actual person hasn't changed much. They still get angry when they got angry. They still have these kind of quirks and all this, but they have a better vocabulary and they have a better way of expressing themselves. And it might be very impressive to give lectures, but they're not really happier. They're not really creating peace and radiating peace around them. They're not giving people joy. They're not lifting people up just with silence, just with vibration, like Ramana was always described as Thakur. And you're in their presence, you just felt invisibly lifted up. This peace, this stillness. And this is the ideal that this nididhyasana, these experiences are. So the first thing we have to do is to just start to become and let go of all these things that we're holding on to. The body identification problems, whether it's healthy or not, the mind, the emotions. That's a big one. Emotions, to let go of the emotions. And how do you do that? Ramana and Thakur and Swamiji said, just become the observer of those things. That means you need to create a space between the emotion, the thought, the body of awareness, the whatever it is, that self fear, whatever. Create a space between it and the awareness. Don't make it you. Realize that it is not you, that it is just something happening in awareness, and that you're observing it, just like a stranger, just like somebody else would be afraid. Somebody else would be having this thought. Somebody else would be having this fear. That's really helpful. And seeing everything around you as not separate from you, but as a part of that, the same thing. There's no separation. Because if there's separation, there's unknown, and there's something that to be. If everything is a part of that, then there's no thing outside of awareness, and there's nothing that can be possibly outside that can harm you. This is all one grand single unity, and there's nothing that can be a threat to you. You can let your guard down. You can totally surrender and know that everything that comes to you is by design. Everything that comes to you is not an accident. It's for your highest good, your highest benefit, and for all those that you see, because you only want what's best for them too. You only want their liberation. You only want their ultimate happiness too. So this is one of the keys that Swamiji was talking about in Sri Ramana, is to create that space and become the awareness. So there's a meditation technique that we were doing here that will repeat, that allows us to become the awareness, and it's from the Kashmiri Shaivism, and I kind of lifted it from Swami Sarvapriyananda, and I told him this too, by the way, a couple of times. He was totally fine with it. And that is the Soham meditation that we talked about, and we'll do that again with the breath. And it is a glorious meditation that you can do, that if you really practice this, it's wonderful to create that state of the observer and detachment anytime you want to. So we'll use that before we actually go into the Ashtavakra Gita. One other thing I really wanted to quickly mention on this class, and then we'll dive deeper, is that there's those three states of consciousness. They say the waking awareness, where the mind is working, the dreaming state of awareness, and they say deep sleep, but there's also ecstasy. So deep sleep is when you're not aware, or you're just awareness. But the ecstasy can come in when you become aware of being aware, that there's nothing else. And so this dreamless sleep, this dreamless state, can also be equated when you finally are breaking in to have a state of ecstasy, where there's just that unlimited state of awareness. That's why everybody says Satchidananda, Ananda, the greatest ecstasy you can even conceive of, is behind this awareness, behind this wave. So I love using dreams to train myself to see things in those terms, that all is this awareness, that nothing's outside of myself, or nobody's outside of myself. And so they say the first principle of, if you want to interpret dreams, is to realize that all the aspects in the dream are a part of you, part of your awareness. And they describe in an objective point of view what's going on in yourself, in your reality, in your created world around you, your imagined world around you. So everybody that's in a dream is a part of you, and their personality is an aspect of you. Their point of view, their limitations, their strengths, all that sort of thing reflects from a part of you. They say you wouldn't be aware of anything unless part of that existed in you. So if somebody bugs you and they drive you nuts, it's because that part somehow, doesn't mean it's exactly like them, but they say it somehow is in you too. Otherwise, it wouldn't have any resonance with you at all. It wouldn't resonate with you. You wouldn't have any control over you. So these are the ideas of being able to see things in the dream. And Dr. Barbara Condren wrote a book called The Dreamer's Dictionary, and you can get this online. I bought this online, but I actually was a part of the School of Metaphysics in the 1970s. And I know Dr. Barbara pretty well, not recently, but in the day we were, and I respect her very much. And she wrote this Dreamer's Dictionary because it's all the aspects, all the things that can possibly occur in a dream have a symbolism of consciousness, of a state of awareness, of reflected reality, of fear, of emotion, of habit. All these things are described in detail. And so whatever is in a dream there's a certain description of that term or that thing that's in here, and it tells you what it means in mind, in consciousness and awareness. So it's a really cool book. So if you want to kind of, again, what it is a way of just turning the awareness inside, that nothing is external to you. Nothing is going on. It's all a part of awareness. And so that we're all the observer, and all these things are happening in awareness and consciousness. And so that's kind of a neat thing, especially if you're having dreams that are threatening to you or causing you trouble. Some people have nightmares and recurring nightmares, and they can't figure out what it's all about, or they just are unsettled. And then when they finally do have a dream, it kind of shocks them. So if you can kind of unravel that message, a lot of times all of its power against you is lost, and then you can become peaceful with it. So at any rate, so why don't we do this? Why don't we get ready for the Ashtavakra Gita guided meditation? And we're going to do our pranayama. We always follow the rules of the road. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras describes how to be able to control the mind in meditation, how to control the body, how to make it not an issue. And so, you can't go from having a body bugging you to being not the body. It's like that, right? It's not possible. So having some kind of help along the way. And even Ramana Maharshi said that this is a valuable use, as long as it leads to the ability for vichara, for inner reflection, for that inner inquiry. So we'll use it for what it's supposed to be used for. So Patanjali's Yoga Sutra says yama niyama, the things you should do and the things you shouldn't do. So if you're living a life that's contrary to your moral principles, you can never find peace, you can never relax, you can never come to that state of awareness and peace and meditation, because something's always bugging you. You're not living your truth. You're not living what you inside, not just what the world tells you you need to do, you can't do. But inside, there's a certain moral compass that we all have, and it's set by our own selves. And if we're living against that truth, then there's an unsettledness, always within us. And the only way to overcome that is to realign with yama niyama and just live your truth, live what's righteous action, righteous thought. Not because it's good or bad and you're going to go to heaven or hell. That's not the point here. The point here is being able to live your own inner truth, your own inner, be authentic. And that'll allow you to release all of this stuff and go beyond it. And that's the key here. Not trying to earn something, because that's the fool's errand, I say. Because you can't earn this. It's already you. There's no earning it. It's outside of you. The earning is outside. Externalizing it all. So using this internally, yama niyama. Asana is the next one. So posture. And this is very important because unless you can really control your thoughts and go beyond the body like Ramana could automatically, being able to let the body be relaxed and not an issue, not a distraction is kind of helpful when you're wanting to control yourself, or if you're restless, or especially if you want to really kind of dive deep into awareness. You don't want to be thinking about or scratching or all that kind of stuff. So asana, how you sit. And these things, there are certain energy patterns, energy currents. Of course, in ultimate sense, they may not be real, but in our reality, they affect us until we go beyond the body. So sitting straight with the spine erect, and the back not against the back of the chair, because there's subtle spinal currents that go up and down the spine. And Sri Ramakrishna described them in detail, and so did Paramahansa Yoganandaji and a lot of the saints. So if you're going to sit on a chair, the ideal is to have your feet flat on the floor and your palms upturned somewhere on your thigh, at the juncture of the thigh and abdomen, or on your thigh, wherever. But your chest should be kind of forward, your back, shoulders slightly back, because then it straightens the spine. And the chin parallel to the floor. So this is important because there's actual currents that go up and down the spine. And where the currents are, there is the state of consciousness or awareness. And the lower, the Thakur describes this, the first three centers are all the physical desires, thinking, it's self-preservation, then the creative impulse, and then the emotional impulse, and so on. So this is the first three levels of chakra. And as long as our attention and all of our energy is kind of down there, we're always thinking, we're always in these emotional situations. But Thakur described, and it's about Paramahansaji, when you finally get that energy up to the center of the heart, that's the beginning of spiritual experience and awareness. And they say that when that happens, you start to see light. Everything is light. You feel this peace and this joy and feeling at home and opening up the heart. That's why meditating on the heart is really something that is prescribed in a lot of exercises and meditations. Is the heart can be very close, a close connection that you can feel and just melt and open that heart up. Then beyond the heart, you have the throat chakra, which is expression. It's the expression of this divinity. That it's a higher level here in the throat. Tucker describes in detail. I won't bore you with, you'd have to go into esoteric minutia. And then, of course, the medulla and the Ashtavakra, between the point between the eyebrows, is always, it's stated to be the place where you actually see truth. There's a small veil there in front of it and that you, but it is seeing truth directly. And here, a lot of yogis like to focus on the third eye, and they say to raise the eyes just slightly, a little on an angle, focusing on the third eye here. So raising the eyes, not having the eyes going in parallel, and not having the eyes go downward, but having the eyes just slightly raised. And Vedanta describes this, that when the eyes go down, you generally go to sleep because it's subconscious. If the eyes are going forward, it's waking consciousness where the mind will be more active and you'll be thinking and you'll have all the normal awareness. But when the eyes are upturned and locked here, and the deeply meditating yogis actually have the ability of having non-blinking eyes. There's a state of mudra, Baba mudra that goes in where the eyes, you'll see these deep yogis not even blinking and their eyes are upturned. And you'll see a lot of this even in Thakur and certain yogis. But you can also close your eyes and have that happen. And of course, the crown chakra is where we are absorbed into that reality. There's no distance, there's no separation, it's that oneness. So this is the yoga way of describing these states of awareness. And if we were going to use meditation, we might as well use the yoga secrets. So the first thing is to put the attention, focus the mind at the point between the eyebrows. You can feel the heart even if the mind is focused here. Or you can put your whole attention right here on the point between the eyebrows. And just, that's all you see and experience is here. And that joy is here, and that bliss is here. And then going through that center is described by some yogis. And then of course the crown, the 1,000-petal lotus, Shisham, here is the experience of oneness. So if you want to use those things, that's fine. If not, then at least being able to keep the body still and the spine straight and the eyes just upturned will help a lot. Then what we're going to do is then this asana, then pranayama. Pranayama is not just breath control. Pranayama is also energy control, prana. And the prana controls all the functions of the body, even the mind. So the prana is becoming very elemental in being able to, in a yogic sense, being able to still the mind and turn the attention inward. So if you can use the breath to be able to become this awareness, state of awareness, just the observer, it's really powerful. And this is what Soham meditation can do. So what we're going to do is we're going to use pranayama by breathing in twice like this, tensing the whole body, and holding for a count of 10. Inhaling for a count of 10, holding for a count of 10, then exhale with the double exhalation to the mouth. And letting go of that tension. So you're inhaling through the nose, holding for a count of 10, and then exhaling to the mouth, double. We're going to do that 3 times. And then on the 3rd time, we're just going to let the breath stay out. And then just become the observer of the breath. This is so amazing. This will be a real test for how you can surrender. Don't try to control the breath in the least. Don't at all. All you're wanting to do is observe the breath. And when of its own volition, when its own momentum, its own desire, its own natural movement, it breathes, you take an inhaling breath, just observe it. And chant soul. So it could be a really short breath, it could be a long breath. Your breath will do its own thing. Don't try to control it in the least, just observe it. And it takes some practice because you'll want to control it. The mind wants to control. We've got to learn to surrender. This is why it's such a great technique, because it gives us this ability to really see how we are. Can we do this? Surrender it, and so when the breath goes in. Then if it stays in and it does, you don't breathe, just enjoy the breathless state. And this could happen more and more. As you sit and practice this more and more, you'll find the breathless state will come on more and more. And just enjoy that peace, lack of thought. And then when the breath of its own accord goes out, hum. So hum. I am he. With every breath, you're affirming reality. So hum. So hum. And your breath can become very refined, where it just barely comes and goes. So. And if it's a long breath, so. Exhale, hum. So don't try to control the breath. And then just become that awareness of the breath. So, and then once we get to that state of that centeredness and that observer, then I'm going to start reading the Ashtavakra Gita. And just listen to the words as if they were coming from your own inner awareness, your own inner consciousness. And it's just experience what it is being expressed. Don't try to think about it. Don't try to analyze it. Just experience that reality that it is giving us, and know that it is the truth. And just be in that awareness, and we'll go through some chapters. So now let's do some pranayama. Remember, you're going to breathe in to a count of 10 and tense the whole body. Hold it for a count of 10, and then exhale. And then we'll do it together, and then just 3 times, and then we'll just let the breath stay out. And when it starts of its own accord coming in, don't control it. So it stays in, goes out, hum. Okay? So here we go. Let's breathe in. Now exhale. 10. Breathe in for a count of 10. Hold. Exhale. And you should hear this breath. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Now just let it be. Observe the breath when it comes in of its own. So it is. When it exhales, hum. Chapter 14, the Fool. By nature, my mind is empty. Even in sleep, I am awake. I think of things without thinking. All my impressions of the world have dissolved. My desires have melted away. So what do I care for money or the thieving senses, for friends or knowledge or holy books, liberation, bondage, what are they for me? What do I care for freedom? For I have known God, the infinite self, the witness of all things, without a fool, within, free of thought. I do as I please, and only those like me understand my ways. The man who is pure of heart is bound to fulfill himself in whatever way he is taught. A worldly man seeks all his life, but is still bewildered. Detached from the senses, you are free. Attached, you are bound. Within, this is understood. You may live as you please. When this is understood, the man who is bright and busy and full of fine words falls silent. He does nothing. He is still. No wonder those who wish to enjoy the world shun this understanding. You are not your body. Your body is not you. You are not the doer. You are not the enjoyer. You are pure awareness, the witness of all things. You are without expectation, free. Wherever you go, be happy. Desire and aversion are of the mind. The mind is never yours. You are free of its turmoil. You are awareness itself, never changing. Wherever you go, be happy. For see, the self is in all beings, and all beings are in the self. Know you are free, free of I, free of mind. Be happy. In you the worlds arise, like waves in the sea. It is true. You are awareness itself. So free yourself from the fever of the world. Have faith, my child. Have faith. Do not be bewildered, for you are beyond all things, the heart of all knowing. You are the self. You are God. The body is confined by its natural properties. It comes, it lingers a while, it goes. But the self neither comes nor goes. So why grieve for the body? If the body lasted till the end of time, or vanished today, what would you win or lose? You are pure awareness. You are the endless sea, in whom all the worlds like waves naturally rise and fall. You have nothing to win, nothing to lose. Child, you are but pure awareness, nothing less. You and the world are one. So who are you to think you can hold on to it or let it go? How could you? You are the clear space of awareness, pure and still, in whom there is no birth, no activity, no I. You are one and the same. You cannot change or die. You are in whatever you see. You alone. Just as bracelets and bangles and dancing anklets are all of the same gold. I am not this. I am he. Give up such distinctions. Know that everything is the self. Rid yourself of all purpose and be happy. The world only arises from ignorance. You alone are real. There is no one, not even God, separate from yourself. You are pure awareness. The world is an illusion, nothing more. When you understand this fully, desire falls away. You find peace. For indeed, there is nothing. In the ocean of being, there is only one. There was and there will be only one. You are already fulfilled. How can you be bound or free? Wherever you go, be happy. Never upset your mind with yes or no. Be quiet. You are awareness itself. Live in the happiness of your own nature, which is happiness itself. What is the use of thinking? Once and for all, give up meditation. Hold nothing in your mind. You are the self, and you are free. Peace. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. I hope we can just practice this in our week. Just whenever, feel how you feel now, established in as best we can that truth of our being of that awareness. Be happy. It says over and over, be happy, be enough. When we get caught up in all of these external things, take time, watch this again if you need to, but do that Soham meditation. Remind yourself, if you have a copy of the Ashtavakra Gita, of this reality as often as possible. Bring your mind to this reality. Eventually, we will have this reality at every moment of our being, of our existence. We will never not have this awareness, and we will be happy. Thank you all.